Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your patience. It's been a very long day for everyone. We'll take them, please.
First of all, it's a joint memo between the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Ministry of Trade, presented to Council today, was to seek Council approval for the draft National Dairy Policy to regulate the Nigerian dairy industry by providing a framework and guiding principles for the development of an efficient dairy subsector to satisfy the national demand for milk and dairy product. We have always been talking about food security, but realize that it's food and nutrition security. And because of that, even a National Council on Nutrition, which His Excellency the Vice President chairs, also advocated the establishment of a nutrition department in several MDAs that are relevant to that. So the purpose is not just to regulate, but also to fulfill the food and nutrition. We all know dairy product is part of nutrition for good bones, especially for kids, calcium and all the other minerals and vitamins that are in that. In addition, of course, you cannot have a good dairy product without, of course, looking at livestock. So this policy not only is to regulate that industry, but in some ways and in connection with other programs and projects and policies has also a lot to do with livestock production, which is embedded in this particular policy. Why is jointly carried out with trade and investment is also a business policy, a business in the sense that our objective is not only to achieve food and nutrition security, but to be able to produce food for ourselves and also to export, and that includes dairy product. So it's both business and dairy production and regulation of the industry. The draft document has gone through so much validation and revalidation across the MDAs that are relevant to it, and the purpose really is to make sure we produce a document that will stand the test of time, will accelerate the growth of the dairy subsector, at the same time sustain the growth of that subsector. Thank you.
The whole idea is that for a country to develop rapidly, it must be industrialized and it must be responsible, inclusive, balanced, and sustainable investment. To attract the kind of investment, to attract significant investments into the country, we felt that there was a need for us to have an investment policy which would give confidence and allow people who want to invest in the country that confidence to bring their funds into the country. As a result of which, we put this policy together, it was presented to Council, and it was approved. The second memo which we presented was for the approval of the Nigeria Automotive Industry Development Plan 2023 to 2033. This is an improvement on the 2013 Automotive Industry Development Plan, which was in place before. And the whole idea is to bring it up to date with current realities, also to put our auto industry on a proper footing. As you're all aware, Nigeria has capacity today to assemble 400,000 vehicles, but the kind of assembly that is in process today is that of semi-knockdown parts. And what we have put in place is to give confidence to the original equipment manufacturers of motor vehicles, that confidence to come and actually manufacture completely knocked down parts, vehicles in the country. And one thing that happens in the auto industry is that when the auto assembly companies move into a country to make that investment. The investment would be anything between $300 and $400 million for a proper TKD plant. What happens is that the makers of the components that go into the manufacture of these vehicles also move to that country to set up component making factories. So we have put together a new automotive industry development plan. And also, one of the things that we are taking into consideration is the movement from combustible engines into electric and solar-powered engines as well. So, and all the various incentives that are available to the manufacturers are contained in this automotive industry development plan. The third paper that we presented to Council today was for the approval for the trade policy of Nigeria for 2023 to 2027. It's basically a review of the old trade policy that was in place, and the whole idea also was to have a policy in place that will improve Nigeria's trade within the World Trade Organization and to bring increased level of trade in Nigeria comparative to GDP, to bring in more revenue for the country. That also was approved by Council today. I thank you.
The Ministry of Transportation today submitted 3 memoranda to Council, which were approved. The first of them was in respect of the provision of security equipment for the Nigerian railway stations across the country, phase 2. These security equipment include baggage scanners, walk-through metal detectors, X-ray mail scanners, liquid explosive detectors, narcotics, chemical trace bomb detectors, among others. It was awarded to Messrs. Advonics Services Nigeria Limited in the sum of 4.3 billion naira with a completion period of 12 months. The second memorandum is also from the Nigerian Railway Corporation to provide a secure e-ticketing solution for the Lagos-Ibadan corridor and the Warri-Itakpe corridor under a design, finance, build, operate, maintain, and transfer public partnership arrangement for the Nigerian Railway Corporation. The Lagos-Ibadan corridor was approved in favor of Messrs. Global Software Digital Solutions Limited, Datamatics Global Services Limited, for a concession period of 10 years at a sharing ratio of 81.5% to NRC and 18.5% to the concessionaire. The Warri-Itakpe corridor under the same partnership arrangement was approved for Messrs. Fain International Consult Limited / Artificial Intelligence Technologies Limited for a concession period of 10 years and the same sharing ratio. Now, it is worthy of note that the e-ticketing solution is important in generating revenue because our experience has shown us that when prior to the e-ticketing solution for the Abuja-Kaduna corridor, the Nigerian Railway Corporation was netting an average of about 80 million naira in sales per month. And upon the e-ticketing solution deployment, the revenues skyrocketed to an average of 500 million naira monthly. And that is what has encouraged us to provide this solution for the other 2 corridors as well. The third memorandum is in respect of a request by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency to buy 2 buildings in Port Harcourt and Abuja to serve as a zonal office as well as an Abuja liaison office respectively. Now, gentlemen of the press, you will recall that in the days of the President Obasanjo administration, the present headquarters of the Federal Ministry of Transportation actually was the Masa headquarters prior to their being ordered to go back to Lagos. Since then, they have been operating their Abuja liaison office in a rented building in Maitama, not to talk of all the environmental threats and excessive rentals that they had to contend with. And so the solution is to have its own building here in Abuja. And that was granted by council, while Port Harcourt houses the zonal headquarters of the agency to cover all the littoral states of Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, and River State, because the eastern zone actually has many ports, terminals, and jetties under the purview of the agency. That again was approved by council, details of which are as follows. For the Port Harcourt building, it was purchased from Messrs. Integrated Consult Company Limited. It's a 3-story building in the sum of 4,186,533,750 naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT. While that of Abuja is a 4-story building at plot number 622, Cadastral Zone CBD, Abuja, in favor of Messrs. Avalon Intercontinental Nigeria Limited in the sum of 4,473,236 naira 250 kobo, inclusive of all taxes. May I also say that these 2 expenditures were properly and adequately provided for in NIMASA's budget, approved budget. And so council considered them and approved accordingly. Thank you very much.
The Minister of Water Resources presented 2 memos to council, both PPP related. The first one is the concession for the operation and maintenance of the proposed Gurara 2 360 megawatts hydropower project, which is about to commence. The project was previously approved by council in 2019 to be financed with a China Exim Bank loan, along with 15% equity contribution by the contractor and the 15% counterpart funding by the federal government. ICRC has done all the due diligence required, and the council approved a 30-year concession, and it is envisaged that within the 30 years concession, this project will pay back the loan. I think something in the region of $800 to $900 million is likely to be generated to be able to pay back the loan. And because it was considered a bankable project, that is why it was readily approved by the National Assembly under the borrowing plan. So the idea now is we have them O&M concession that will pave the way for China Exim Bank to commence release of the funding, which was basically stalled because of COVID-19, essentially. And as you know, some other projects related to the China Exim loan, like the railway project development, have also been affected by that. So the project was also one of those that was affected, but we've put all the necessary measures in place, and with this approval by council, I think the project is ready to take off. It comprises of a dam, a 360 megawatt hydropower project, and 2,400 hectares of irrigation in the first instance, and it is situated in Niger State. The second memo concerned the concessioning of the 40 megawatt Kashimbila hydropower station, which is part of the Kashimbila dam project, The dam and hydropower project were completed in 2017, but we could not commission because we're waiting for the Ministry of Power to complete the transmission line. That has been done. The phase one has been done. Already for the past 1.5, 2 years, we've been testing the line. We've been injecting 10 megawatts into the national grid. So we have now come to the point where we're concessioned for full operation and maintenance of the scheme upon completion of the second phase of the transmission line. And that concession was awarded to Mainstream Energy, the current concessionaires of Kainji and Jeba hydropower stations. So these are the two memos considered today and approved by Council. Thank you very much.
The Ministry of Youth and Sports Development presented just one memo today in Council. The memo has to do with the National Sports Medicine and High Performance Center, the construction of a high performance center at the Package B of the Moshood Abiola Stadium. Over time, in the past decades, one of the drawbacks of sports development and athletes development has been the lack of a high-performance center. Global sports development practice has high-performance center as a major component of conditioning its athletes. It takes your athletes beyond just raw talent to some level of sports science and precision. And lack of that scientific input into our sports development over time has not helped us to reach the maximum podium performance that can be attained by our athletes. We have seen our other athletes, particularly in Kenya, where we have something close to that, in South Africa, where we have something close to that. We see what their performances are. So we got approval of 2.4 billion naira to build within the next 3 years a national sports medicine and high performance center at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. As we speak, more than 80% of the equipment that will be needed, some of them, digital equipment, are already secured and obtained at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. What we need is to construct the specialized building where we're going to install all of this. And if this is done, the number one high-performance center in the whole of the African continent is the one in South Africa. And if we're able to complete the one in Abuja here, that will be the second one in Africa. The company that got the award for the contract is Messrs. Jamek West Africa Limited. And like I said, for 2.4 billion naira with a completion period of 3 years. Thank you.
Decisions of the FEC before we take questions. The FEC approved 449.9 million for the engagement of consultants for the development of airport master plan for 17 airports in Nigeria. If you want to confirm if your city is there, I will give you the list after the briefing. The council also approved a contract for post-contract consultancy amounting to 3.4 billion naira for the construction consultancy, post-contract consultancy for the construction of the second runway and associated facilities at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. You also can rightly call today as really the true Ogoni Day, because 2 major contracts were approved for Ogoni. And Ogoni is one of the flagships of the Buhari administration, and we obviously are aware that the whole world is watching Nigeria and seeing what we're doing there. So there are water projects that have been awarded under the second phase in Ogoni land, amounting to 22.8 billion naira. Approval was also given for the award for the contract for the remediation of newly identified hydrocarbon impacted sites along the shoreline of Ogoni land. And this is for about billion naira. It's a big one indeed. The FCT also got quite a number of approvals, and this include contract for the full scope development of the Shehu Shagari Way, and it is for 91 billion naira. And then another one is for the rehabilitation of the Rubochi Township roads and upgrading of Rubochi Gwagwarda Road in FCT for about 5.7 billion naira. Council also approved contract for the construction of 3.2 kilometer road to Kwali Bridge in Kwali area council of the FCT. And this one is for about 1.6 billion naira. Another FCT contract is for the revised estimated cost of the contract for the provision of engineering infrastructure at Guzape District Lot 2 of the FCT. And the contract sum is 28 billion, a little over that, 28 billion naira. And the fifth approval for FCT is for the revised estimated total cost stroke augmentation of the contract for the provision of access road to Kabusa Garden Estate, Dako District in Abuja, and this is for 6.6 billion naira. We have Finance also has approval for the contract for the construction of the Federal Inland Revenue Service multi-story office complex at Agidimbi Training School, Ikeja, Lagos. This is for 10.3 billion naira. The Ministry of Finance also has approval for the award of the contract for the construction of Zone B headquarters of the Nigeria Customs in Mando and Afaka in Abuja, in Kaduna. We have also approval for the Ministry of Interior for the establishment of the National Institute for Domestic Security at Irogbo, Ilesha, Osun State. This is for the research and capacity development of paramilitary agencies and other relevant stakeholders, both within and outside Nigeria, to guarantee a peaceful and secured nation. And the amount involved here, I will get back to you. I will give you that one. And then we have the Ministry of Works and Housing. They have 3 approvals, one for 8 roads, and I will just mention that the names of the roads. This one is Biu Numan in Adamawa State. There is Kaba Ayere Isua Ipele Road. This is in Kogi. Nigeria Ports Authority DSC Road. This is in Delta State. There is Otupo Ogobia Anyagade Angpa Road in Benue / Kogi states. There is the rehabilitation of the Kaba Ayere Isua Ipele Road in Kogi / Ondo states. There is also the reconstruction of Ijebu Igbo Ita Egba Onowen of Ogun State. I hope I'm getting it right. And then there is the Ebode Udochi Osangbe Road in Itsako area of Edo State. And then the rehabilitation of Okigwe Augu Road in Imo State, various sums of money. And then, of course, there is also approval for a new approval for the rehabilitation of the Mokodi Boko Vandeika Obudu Road in Benue State. This is for 33 billion naira. And there's also the revised estimated total cost of construction for the construction of Aguobu or Mbagu or Ebenebe in Anambra State border. This is revised estimated is at the difference is at about 1.5 billion naira. I guess yes, this is it. Ministers who are here, they have covered those that concern them. So you are free to ask your questions.
To prepare an action plan. The action plan was done within 90 days, but in draft form. It has begun to be subjected to a lot of review. We had the last steering committee meeting last week, I think on the 2nd of May, and we finalized on the report. We couldn't do that because of the elections. You know, the elections came and we couldn't get the steering committee to meet earlier to sort it out. I cannot speak about the details until I've made a presentation to Mr. President. We're going to do that next week because it's administratively the right way to do it. So after that, we'll be able to address the media and give you some highlights of that, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Without any intentions or mischief, this government was elected to function from 2019 to precisely 29th of May 2023. Should we now stop functioning 1 month before the next government because we're coming to an end of the tenure? This government must work. We expect the next government to also work until the very last day of their tenure. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may add, agencies, these things are not just done in one day. We had lots of submissions to BPP, to ICRC, all the agencies involved in procurement, and they have to get ready. So anytime they're ready, it's at that point that we have to submit. And like Minister of Transportation said, I think we're still in office technically until the 28th of May. So we still have to operate, and this is the instruction that we have from Mr. President. Since the primaries were conducted, that government must continue to function regardless of the elections and so on. And so we're just doing our duty as we should, serving the country. These things, we do not control the process, but when it's completed and we're still in office, we're duty-bound to bring these memos to council for council to approve. Government is a continuum. There are still a lot of memos, I can assure you, a lot of contracts that will not see the light of day in the next 1 week or two. And those we don't have any option but to let the process continue and then for the next government to come and continue. That's what we face also. Some of the very first memos we brought to council in 2015, for me, I had no idea when they started, but I had to be briefed, and this was the way that it had to be, and then we brought them here. So government is a continuum, and it should be seen as such. And I think this administration should be given that full credit because to a large extent, we have continued since 2015 to implement projects and programs that we felt that we didn't initiate, but which we, in our assessment, were good for the country. We continued them. We didn't jettison them. And we're confident that the incoming administration will do the same. Thank you.
It's important that we deal with facts. As of 3 weeks ago, prior to the last match that was played by the Super Eagles, there is a report both with the NFF and the ministry. The CAF and FIFA team came, and they certified Uyo Stadium and Mashood Abiola Stadium as the best in Nigeria. And they said the one in Abuja is number one. You can check that out. It's also reported if you just do a mere search. It's also not true. You must give this administration of President Muhammadu Buhari a lot of credit. The ministry 2 days ago released the list of renovations and upgrades that have taken place at the Mashood Abiola Stadium. 24 of them, 24 renovations and upgrades have taken place. At the stadium in Surulere, 16 upgrades have taken place over time. More than 11 functional areas. Surulere, over 380 Nigerians go there daily. Families, children, mothers. What do you think they go there to do? They go to access and use the functional aspects of the stadium. Yes, certain aspects of that stadium have gone bad. And what do you expect? 51-year-old stadium, built 51 years ago, left unattended for 19 years. Then you have a government that has started that journey. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a few steps. And let me also correct the data. What was approved and released, administered by the Dangote Group, is 450 million. That was the exchange rate. The Dangote Group did the procurement, chose the contractor, and paid the contractor based on the presentation of certificate of performance. The same thing with the stadium in Surulere, 450 million. Nowhere in the world can you use 450 million to renovate a 51-year-old stadium. The Moshood Abiola Stadium, when it was built in 2003, is 20 years old now. Julius Baja gave us a bill of 1.2 billion naira annually to maintain the stadium and keep it. It's gone for almost 14 years. So you can do the math. Every year as it depreciates, the amount that Julius Baja has given us increases from 1.2 billion to 1.5 billion. So what I must say for the records, and we've released that data 2 days ago, we've been able to bring about a culture of maintenance. For the High Performance Center, we're building in 2 to 4 years of maintenance. For Dangote, that fixed the main bowl, we built in 2-year maintenance. Surulere, Premier Lotto, 2 years maintenance with possible renewal. And I agree, without a maintenance culture, no matter how much we invest in our sporting facilities or any building, infrastructure for that matter, they will go bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening.